Your soulmate is going to surprise you. It's related to location. My beloved child. Your soulmate is preparing a surprise for you, and the strangest part is that it has almost nothing to do with a gift. It has to do with a location. A place they have been thinking about quietly, checking more than once, and refusing to explain whenever someone gets too curious. Recently, they looked at this location again and stayed there on the screen longer than they intended. Something about it made them emotional. Not because the place itself is extraordinary, but because of what they imagine happening there with you. And here is where the mystery deepens. Someone close to them noticed what they were doing and asked one simple question: why that place? Your soulmate hesitated before answering. Then they said something so personal that the other person immediately understood why you cannot know about this yet. Don't skip, because the location is only the first clue. What they are actually planning there is the part that changes everything. For days, your soulmate has been quietly putting pieces together. They have checked the distance. They have thought about timing. They have even imagined how you might react when you realize where you are going. But there is one detail they keep changing because they desperately want the moment to feel natural instead of planned. Maybe that is why you have sensed something unusual lately. A different energy. A feeling that something is moving closer even though nobody has told you anything. Have you ever felt as if someone was preparing to enter your world before you had any proof? Your soulmate is caught between excitement and nervousness because this surprise carries a deeper meaning than simply taking you somewhere beautiful. This location connects to something they have wanted to tell you for a long time. Something they could have said through a message or during an ordinary conversation, but they refused. They decided those words deserved a place you would remember. And when you discover why they chose this particular location, you may understand why they have been so secretive. But something happened during their planning that nearly exposed everything. Your soulmate was discussing the location with one trusted person when a question caught them completely off guard. What happens if they realize what you're doing before you get them there? For a moment, your soulmate said nothing. Then they smiled and admitted that you might already sense something. That possibility did not make them cancel the surprise. It made them more determined. Because apparently, there is a specific moment they have pictured again and again: your expression when you arrive, the second you recognize something about the place, and the words they intend to say immediately afterward. Stay till the end, because this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The location may not be somewhere completely unfamiliar to you. In fact, there is a reason your soulmate believes that when you finally see it, a memory could hit you before they even explain anything. And what they have secretly arranged to be waiting there is something you would never expect. What your soulmate arranged at that location began with a memory they never told you they were still carrying. It was something small on the surface, a conversation, a passing remark, perhaps even a place you once mentioned without realizing how carefully they were listening. You may have forgotten the exact moment, but they did not. Your words stayed with them. And recently, when they came across this location again, everything connected at once. That was when the surprise stopped being an idea and became a real plan. But there is another detail. Your soulmate does not want to simply bring you there and explain everything. They want you to discover the meaning gradually. First the location. Then one carefully placed clue. And finally, something waiting for you that proves they remembered far more about you than you ever realized. The person helping them prepare asked whether all this effort was really necessary. Your soulmate's response came immediately. They said this could not happen somewhere ordinary because the location itself was part of what they wanted to say. Think about that for a moment. Why would one place matter so much unless it represented something bigger? Your soulmate has apparently imagined standing beside you there and watching the exact second confusion turns into recognition. But their nervousness is growing. They keep wondering whether you will understand the clue before they explain it. They wonder whether you will become emotional. And most importantly, they wonder what you will say when they finally reveal why they chose this place specifically for you. Something huge is waiting for you, because their surprise is beginning to sound less like a simple visit and more like a decision about where they want the connection between you to go next. Then came the detail nobody helping with the surprise expected. Your soulmate revealed that there are actually two locations involved. The first is where they want you to believe the surprise is happening. The second is the place that carries the real meaning. They have been carefully thinking about how to move you from one to the other without giving away what is coming. Why create all that mystery? Because the second location holds something they are not ready to describe casually. When someone asked what would happen there, your soulmate became unusually quiet. After several seconds, they gave only one answer: that's where they'll understand. Understand what? That is the question nobody could get them to answer. But shortly afterward, they checked one final detail connected to that second location, and what they discovered forced them to suddenly change part of the plan. That sudden change was not because the surprise had gone wrong. It was because your soulmate discovered something about the second location that made the moment feel even more important than they originally imagined. There was a date connected to it. A date that somehow lined up with something meaningful between you, and when they noticed the connection, they stared at it in disbelief. For several minutes, they actually considered moving the entire surprise so everything could happen on that exact day. But then another thought stopped them. What if waiting too long ruined the opportunity? What if circumstances changed before they could bring you there? That question created a new urgency. Your soulmate began checking schedules, distances, and small details more carefully. And somewhere during all of that planning, they made one quiet decision: when the right opportunity appears, they are not going to hesitate. What makes this more emotional is that your soulmate has apparently rehearsed the moment alone. Not dramatically. Not standing in front of a mirror practicing perfect words. Instead, they have imagined the little things. Where you might stand. What you might notice first. Whether you will immediately recognize why the location matters or simply look at them with questions in your eyes. And there is one question they are almost certain you will ask: why did you bring me here? Your soulmate already knows their answer, but they are afraid they might become too emotional to say it exactly as planned. Have you ever meant so much to someone that even imagining your reaction made them nervous? Because this surprise is beginning to reveal something deeper. They are not choosing a location merely because it looks beautiful. They are choosing it because they want the place itself to become part of your story together. But then the trusted person helping them noticed something unusual among the plans. Your soulmate had saved information about another nearby spot. Somewhere quieter, more private, and apparently not included in the original idea. When questioned about it, they tried to brush it off. That only made the other person more curious. Finally, your soulmate admitted that if everything goes the way they hope, they want to take you there afterward. Don't skip, because this third location may be the most important clue yet. Unlike the first two places, this one is not connected to the past. It represents something your soulmate has been secretly imagining about the future. And when they were asked what exactly they planned to tell you there, they lowered their voice and revealed one sentence that completely changed the meaning of the entire surprise. The sentence your soulmate revealed was simple, but it carried more weight than anyone expected. I want them to see where I picture us going from here. Suddenly, the third location made sense. This was never only about revisiting a meaningful memory. Your soulmate was quietly building a journey through three places, one designed to catch you off guard, another connected to something neither of you could easily forget, and a final place representing what they hope could come next. The person helping them became silent after hearing this because they realized how deeply your soulmate had thought everything through. But then they asked something your soulmate had apparently been avoiding: what if they don't want the same future? That question changed their expression immediately. For all their careful planning, there is one thing they cannot control: your answer. And that uncertainty is exactly why they have kept everything hidden. Your soulmate does not want you feeling pressured simply because they created an emotional surprise. They want your reaction to be genuine. They want to know what you feel when there is no warning and no rehearsed response. So they changed another part of the plan. Instead of explaining the meaning of every location themselves, they decided to leave space for you to notice things first. What memory comes back when you arrive? What will you feel when you realize they remembered something you thought had disappeared into the past? And when you reach that final place, will you understand what they are trying to communicate before they say a word? Your soulmate believes you might. In fact, that possibility is what makes them nervous, because there is one particular detail at the third location that could expose their intentions instantly. That detail is connected to a view your soulmate has pictured sharing with you. They have apparently visited, or carefully studied, the exact spot where they want you standing when the truth finally comes out. But something unexpected happened when they checked it again. Another person there mentioned a nearby place your soulmate had never considered, and the description immediately caught their attention. It was quieter, more meaningful. And strangely, it matched something you once expressed wanting from life. Your soulmate asked several questions about it, then walked away with an entirely new idea. Stay till the end, because this changed more than the location. It changed what they intend to reveal when you finally arrive. They are now considering adding one last surprise after you believe everything is already over, and only one person knows what they secretly plan to place there before you come. The one person who knows about that final surprise was given a very specific instruction: nothing should look staged. Your soulmate does not want you arriving to some exaggerated display that immediately tells you what is happening. They want the location to feel peaceful and almost ordinary at first. Then your eyes are supposed to find one small object waiting there. Something chosen because it connects directly to a detail you once shared about yourself. Your soulmate remembered it when almost anyone else would have forgotten. And that is exactly the point. The object is meant to silently tell you, I was listening. But here is what makes this more mysterious. Your soulmate originally planned to leave only that one thing. At the last moment, they decided to place something inside it, and even the person helping them was surprised by what it contained. It is not about money, and it is not some flashy gift. What they prepared is personal. A few carefully chosen words connected to the places you will have just visited together. Your soulmate started writing them, stopped, erased part of what they had written, and began again because the first version felt too guarded. They knew this might be the one moment when hiding behind safe language would destroy everything they had worked so hard to create. So they allowed themselves to be vulnerable. One line refers to the past. Another speaks about what your presence changed inside them. But there is one final line they still have not finished. Why? Because they believe that line should depend on what happens between you at the third location. Your reaction could determine exactly what they write before the surprise reaches its final stage. And now there is another complication. Someone almost discovered the plan. Your soulmate received an unexpected question about why they had been researching the same area repeatedly, and for a second, they had no believable explanation ready. They changed the subject, but afterward they became worried that the surprise might somehow reach you before they could make it happen. That fear pushed them to move faster. They contacted the person helping them and asked whether everything could be prepared sooner than expected. The answer was yes, but only if your soulmate made one final decision immediately. Don't skip, because that decision involves you more directly than anything so far. They now have to choose whether to bring you to the location through an innocent excuse, or tell you that they need to take you somewhere important without explaining why. And just when they thought those were their only two choices, a message arrived that gave them a completely different way to get you there. The message came from the person helping with the surprise, and it contained an idea your soulmate had never considered. Instead of inventing an excuse, why not let the location itself become the invitation? A photograph. A familiar landmark. One tiny detail you might recognize without immediately understanding why it was sent. Your soulmate loved the idea, but there was a risk. If you recognize the place too quickly, you might also remember the conversation connected to it and begin putting everything together. Still, they decided that uncertainty was better than dishonesty. So now they are considering sending you one carefully chosen clue when the moment is right. No explanation. No long message. Just enough to make you wonder, why are they showing me this place? And your soulmate believes your response to that single clue could tell them whether you are emotionally ready for what they have planned. But something even more revealing happened afterward. Your soulmate went back through old memories, searching for the exact reason this location had stayed with them for so long. That is when they found something they had forgotten, a detail from an earlier conversation in which you described the kind of place where you could imagine feeling completely at peace with someone. The description was surprisingly close to the third location. Your soulmate read those words again and suddenly understood why the place had felt so right. Was it coincidence, or had your words quietly influenced their choice all along? They could not stop thinking about that. And now the surprise carries another layer. They do not simply want to show you where they imagine a future. They want to discover whether the place you once pictured in your own mind somehow matches the place they independently chose for the two of you. Then your soulmate did something nobody helping them expected. They asked for a few minutes alone at the final location before you arrive. When questioned about why, they refused to explain at first. Eventually, they admitted there is something they need to do there privately, something that will determine whether they actually go through with the most vulnerable part of the surprise. Stay with this, because their entire plan may change during those few minutes. Your soulmate intends to stand exactly where they hope you will later stand and ask themselves one difficult question: are they truly ready to tell you everything they have been holding back? If the answer is yes, they will leave the personal message exactly where you can find it. But if fear takes over, they plan to remove one particular line before you ever see it. And now, after everything they have prepared, they have finally decided what that line is going to say. The line your soulmate finally chose is the one they were most afraid to write because it turns the entire surprise from a beautiful moment into an emotional confession. It says, "I didn't bring you here because of where we've been. I brought you here because I needed you to see where I hope we can go." They read those words several times, wondering whether they revealed too much. Then they almost deleted them. But something stopped them. Your soulmate realized that hiding behind mystery forever would defeat the purpose of bringing you to these locations in the first place. They want you to understand that every stop has been leading toward a choice. The first location opens the door. The second reminds you of what connected you. The third asks you to imagine what could still be possible. But there is something they have deliberately kept out of the written message, because this particular truth is something they want to tell you while looking directly into your eyes. That truth concerns why location has become so important to them lately. Your soulmate has been thinking seriously about distance, not only physical distance, but the emotional space that can grow between two people when neither one makes a move. They are tired of imagining what might happen someday. They want something real enough to have a place attached to it. Somewhere the two of you can return to and remember the exact moment uncertainty finally became a conversation. But before they reveal that, they want to ask you one question: if nothing were standing in the way, where would you want us to be? Your answer matters more than you realize. Because your soulmate has already considered changing something about their own location, routine, or future plans to make room for a closer connection with you. They have told almost nobody about this possibility, and even the person helping with the surprise did not understand how serious it was until recently. Then came the biggest clue yet. Your soulmate quietly asked about another location. But this time it was not a romantic spot, a meaningful landmark, or somewhere designed for a single unforgettable evening. It was somewhere connected to everyday life. A neighborhood. An area where people actually build routines, wake up in the morning, make plans, and imagine staying for more than a few hours. When their trusted person realized what they were researching, they asked, "Are you actually thinking about moving?" Your soulmate did not say yes. But they did not say no either. Instead, they gave an answer that changed the entire meaning of the surprise. First, I need to know what they want. And that is why your reaction at the third location matters so much, because depending on what you say there, your soulmate may reveal that they have already taken the first quiet step toward bringing their world much closer to yours. That first quiet step was more serious than simply searching a neighborhood online. Your soulmate had already spoken with someone who knows the area. They asked about the commute, the atmosphere, the places nearby, and what everyday life would actually feel like there. At first, they pretended it was casual curiosity. But then came a question that exposed what was really on their mind. Would this be a good place for two people trying to build something together? The person answering them paused, because that was no longer a question about geography. It was a question about intention. Your soulmate knew it too. And afterward, they sat with the realization that this surprise had grown far beyond what they originally planned. They had started with one meaningful location. Now they were quietly exploring whether changing their own surroundings could create more room for you in their life. But before making any decision, they need to know whether you would actually want that closeness. That is why your soulmate has become so careful about the question they plan to ask you. They do not want to say, "Would you move?" or "Would you want me closer?" Those words would reveal too much too quickly. Instead, they want to hear how you describe your ideal future when you believe there is no correct answer. Would you choose somewhere peaceful? Somewhere familiar? Would you stay where you are, or would you imagine beginning again somewhere completely different? And there is another reason your answer matters. Your soulmate discovered that one location they have been researching contains something you once said was important to you, something connected to the kind of daily life you want, not merely a romantic moment. That discovery shook them because it made the possibility feel strangely real. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to learn that someone was quietly designing their next chapter with your happiness already somewhere inside the picture? But your soulmate still has one concern they have told almost nobody. They are afraid you might misunderstand the surprise and think they have already made a life-changing decision without considering your feelings. So they added another step. Before showing you anything connected to that possible new location, they intend to make one thing unmistakably clear: you are not being asked to fit inside a future they designed alone. They want to know what future you would choose first. And then, only if the moment feels right, they will show you what they have been researching. Don't skip, because something happened immediately after they made that decision. The person helping them sent over information about one specific place in the area, and your soulmate recognized something in the details that made them go completely still. It was connected to a wish you once expressed, and suddenly, they began wondering whether this was the location they had really been searching for all along. The detail that stopped your soulmate cold was almost unbelievably specific. This place had the exact kind of quiet setting you once described when talking about what home should feel like: not impressive, not extravagant, just somewhere that makes you breathe differently the moment you arrive. Your soulmate remembered you saying that peace mattered more than appearances. They had carried those words somewhere in the back of their mind, and now they were staring at a location that seemed to echo them. For the first time, they allowed themselves to imagine an ordinary day there with you. No dramatic surprise. No carefully planned confession. Just morning light, familiar routines, and the comfort of knowing neither of you had to keep wondering when you would see each other again. That image affected them more deeply than any romantic plan had. But it also frightened them, because suddenly this was no longer fantasy. There was a real place attached to the possibility. Your soulmate did not rush forward. Instead, they asked for more information, and one answer changed their thinking again. The place was available to visit sooner than expected. That meant they could potentially see it before taking you through the 3-location surprise. Their trusted person immediately suggested doing exactly that, but your soulmate hesitated. What if they walked inside and loved it? Would they be able to keep that emotion hidden when they finally stood in front of you? And what if they hated it? Would the entire idea collapse before you even knew it existed? They spent hours debating whether to go. Eventually, they made a choice. They would visit, but they would not commit to anything. They only wanted to know whether the feeling in their imagination survived contact with reality. Yet when they finally saw more of the location, one unexpected feature made them think of you instantly. It was not something expensive or dramatic. It was a small space overlooking a peaceful stretch outside, the kind of corner where someone could sit with coffee, think, talk, or simply exist without needing to fill every silence. Your soulmate stood there longer than anywhere else. The person accompanying them noticed and quietly asked, "You're picturing them here, aren't you?" Your soulmate smiled, but their eyes gave away the answer before their words did. Then something even more surprising happened. Instead of asking how quickly they could secure the place, your soulmate asked whether they could return with someone important before making any decision. Stay with this, because that request created a completely new possibility. The location that was supposed to remain secret until after your emotional conversation may now become part of the surprise itself. And your soulmate has started considering whether the final destination should be somewhere you simply visit together, or somewhere they might eventually ask you to help choose. That possibility changed the entire plan overnight. Your soulmate suddenly realized that choosing the final location alone would contradict everything they wanted this surprise to mean. If this place was truly connected to a future that included you, then your voice had to matter before any serious decision was made. So they removed one step from the original plan and replaced it with something far more personal. Instead of showing you a location they had already chosen, they want to stand beside you and watch what catches your attention. Which direction do you look first? What makes you smile? What feels comfortable to you without anyone explaining why it should? Your soulmate wants those small reactions because they believe they will reveal more than a rehearsed answer ever could. But there is one thing they still plan to keep hidden until the right second. They have already been offered an opportunity connected to that location, and they have not accepted it yet because they are waiting to hear what you say. The trusted person helping them could hardly believe they were willing to leave such an important decision unresolved. What if someone else takes the opportunity first? They asked. Your soulmate knew that was possible. Yet their answer revealed exactly where their heart was, then it wasn't meant to be decided without them. That sentence changed the atmosphere completely. This was no longer someone secretly designing a future and expecting you to follow. Your soulmate was deliberately leaving an empty space for your choice. And there is another detail they have not told anyone except this trusted person. They have prepared two possible versions of what happens after you see the location. If you seem uncomfortable, they will quietly let the idea go and never make you feel responsible. But if your face changes in the way they secretly hope it will, they intend to take something from their pocket and show you proof of just how long they have been thinking about bringing your lives closer together. That proof is not a contract or anything that would trap you into a decision. It is something much more emotional, a small collection of notes they made while searching different locations. Beside each place, your soulmate wrote what reminded them of you. One had the peaceful surroundings you once described. Another was closer to something important in your routine. Another simply carried a feeling they could not explain. But beside the location they now want you to see, they wrote only one sentence. When their trusted person accidentally noticed it, they immediately looked away because it felt almost too private to read. Your soulmate closed the notes and said, "That's the part one want them to discover themselves." And here is where everything becomes even more mysterious. That sentence does not describe the location at all. It describes what your soulmate hopes will happen between you after you leave it, and they have already chosen the exact moment when they intend to let you read those words. The exact moment your soulmate chose is surprisingly quiet. They do not want you reading those words while standing inside the location, surrounded by questions and possibilities. They want to wait until you have both stepped away, when there is nothing left to impress you and no reason for your reaction to be anything but genuine. Only then will they hand you those notes and let you find the sentence yourself. And beside that final location, the words are simple: "This is the first place that made me stop imagining you as a visitor in my life." Your soulmate knows exactly how vulnerable that sounds. They almost removed it twice. But each time, they remembered why this surprise began in the first place. They are tired of treating their feelings like something temporary. Still, one question terrifies them: when you read that sentence, will you understand what they truly mean, or will they finally have to say the rest aloud? Because there is a rest, and it is bigger than the notes. Your soulmate has quietly been thinking about what would actually need to change if the two of you decided distance should no longer control your connection. They have considered schedules, responsibilities, the people and routines that matter to both of you. They are not imagining that love magically removes practical problems. In fact, that realism is exactly why this location means so much. It gives them something concrete to talk about with you instead of another vague promise about someday. But they refuse to turn the surprise into pressure. So before discussing any practical possibility, they plan to ask you something far more personal. When you picture feeling truly settled, who do you imagine beside you? Your soulmate has rehearsed asking that question several times, yet every time they imagine hearing your answer, their confidence disappears. And then another unexpected development made that question even harder to ask. The person connected to the location contacted your soulmate again and mentioned that circumstances around the opportunity could change soon. Suddenly, there was a timeline where none had existed before. Your soulmate could have panicked and made the decision alone, but instead they did something that surprised everyone involved: they asked for a little more time. Not because they were uncertain about the place. Because they were unwilling to make a choice that might affect you before hearing your voice. Don't skip, because that request was followed by a question your soulmate was not prepared for. The person on the other end asked, "Is this someone you're planning your future around?" Your soulmate went completely quiet. Then, after a long pause, they gave an answer they had never said aloud to anyone before, and that answer is now changing what they intend to tell you when you finally arrive. Your soulmate's answer was not dramatic. It was almost whispered: "I'm trying to find out if they'll let me." Those words revealed the one thing they had been hiding beneath all this careful planning. They already know what they want. The uncertainty has never been about whether they can picture you in their future. It is about whether you can picture them in yours. After saying it aloud, your soulmate became strangely calm. For the first time, they stopped obsessing over making every detail perfect. The location did not need perfect weather, perfect timing, or perfectly rehearsed words. It only needed the two of you standing somewhere real enough to have an honest conversation. But then they made one final adjustment to the route. Before taking you anywhere connected to a possible future, they decided there was one place from the past you needed to see first, and you may recognize it immediately. This place is connected to the moment your soulmate believes their feelings for you changed permanently. You may remember that moment very differently. Perhaps you thought nothing significant happened. Perhaps it was simply a conversation, a goodbye, or a few ordinary minutes neither of you discussed afterward. But your soulmate remembers one tiny detail, something you said just before leaving. They never told you how deeply those words affected them. That is why they want to bring you back near that location before showing you anything about what comes next. They want you to understand the full journey. Where the feeling became undeniable. Where distance complicated everything. And where they are now considering changing their life instead of continuing to accept that distance. What would you think if someone remembered a moment you barely noticed and quietly carried it for all this time? Your soulmate believes your reaction there could tell them whether you felt more during that moment than you ever admitted. But the biggest surprise is what they plan to do immediately afterward. They are not going to explain the next destination. They intend to give you a choice between two directions without telling you what either one leads to. One direction returns you toward everything familiar. The other takes you toward the location they have been secretly researching. Your soulmate wants you to choose freely, even though you will not yet understand the meaning behind the decision. And when their trusted person heard this idea, they asked whether that was too risky. What if you unknowingly choose the familiar direction? Your soulmate smiled and said something unexpected, then I'll know I need to wait. But if you choose the other direction, they have decided that is the moment they will stop hiding the final secret. Because waiting at that location is one last detail they have not told you about yet. What is waiting there is not another gift, another note, or some elaborate display. Your soulmate has arranged for the location to be completely quiet for a short period, because they want nothing competing with the conversation they have been postponing for so long. When you arrive, they plan to let you look around before explaining anything. They want to watch whether something about the place naturally pulls you in. Then they will ask the question they have been carrying through every stage of this plan: could you ever imagine yourself here? Notice what they are not asking. They are not asking you to promise anything. They are not asking you to change your life overnight. They simply need to know whether this location creates even the smallest possibility in your mind. Because your soulmate has decided that if your answer is genuinely positive, they will finally reveal why they began searching this area in the first place. The reason goes back to a realization they had during a lonely moment when distance suddenly felt heavier than usual. Your soulmate had been thinking about how often meaningful connections become trapped in future tense. Someday we will talk. Someday things will become easier. Someday the timing will finally work. They became tired of that word. So they opened a map and began looking at the distance between where life currently places you and where their own responsibilities keep them. At first, they were only curious. Then they started searching for realistic ways that distance could become smaller without either person sacrificing everything that matters. That search eventually led them to the area they now want you to see. And there is one detail they discovered there that they have deliberately kept secret. From that location, something important to your existing life may be much closer than you would expect. Suddenly, their idea stopped feeling impossible. But your soulmate did not trust their own excitement, so they quietly showed the information to the person helping them and asked for an unbiased opinion. That person studied everything and then asked, "Have you realized what you're actually doing?" Your soulmate looked confused. The answer came softly, "You're not searching for a place. You're searching for a middle ground." Those words stayed with them. A middle ground between two lives. Between waiting and moving forward. Between what is comfortable and what might become meaningful. And now your soulmate plans to tell you exactly that when you stand beside them. But just when they believed the surprise was finally complete, they noticed something on the map they had somehow missed every previous time, a location only a short distance away with a name that instantly reminded them of something you once said. They clicked on it out of curiosity, and what they found there may completely change where they take you last. The place they discovered was not famous, luxurious, or even something your soulmate had been searching for. That is exactly why it affected them so strongly. It was a quiet overlook tucked away from the busier area, and one photograph showed a view that matched a description you once gave almost word for word. You had spoken about wanting a place where life could become quiet enough to hear yourself think, where two people could sit together without needing constant conversation to feel close. Your soulmate remembered that instantly. They stared at the photograph, then checked the distance from the location they had already planned to show you. Only a few minutes separated them. Suddenly, they knew the surprise needed one more stop. But this time, there would be no prepared note waiting. No clue. No carefully rehearsed question. Whatever happens there, your soulmate wants it to happen naturally. That decision frightened them more than everything else they had planned, because preparation had been their protection. As long as they knew what to say next, they could control their nerves. At this final place, they would have nothing except the truth. Their trusted person asked what they intended to tell you there, and your soulmate admitted they did not know exactly. They only knew what they wanted you to understand. Every location was chosen because it represented a different piece of what they feel. One carried a memory. One represented the distance between you. One showed a possible middle ground. And this unexpected final place represents something neither of you can plan perfectly, the possibility of simply being together and seeing what grows from there. But then the trusted person asked a difficult question: what if they ask whether you would really change your location for them? Your soulmate did not hesitate this time. They said, "I would change my location for us, but I would never ask them to change themselves for me." That distinction matters deeply to your soulmate. They are not preparing some dramatic sacrifice and expecting gratitude in return. They are trying to discover whether two lives can move toward each other without either person disappearing inside the other. And that is the real reason the surprise became connected to location. Geography is only the surface. Beneath it is a question about closeness, effort, and whether both of you are ready to stop leaving every